or whatever, just let me know.
Okay.
All right.
Cool.
All right. Are we good to go, Sean? Okay. Perfect. Hi.
Hello.
Ziad. كيفك?
Hi, Shadi.
Welcome to the yet unnamed podcast.
Yes.
Uh,
Nice at Kawalis with the movies, the short films in the background.
yeah.
And
Yeah.
the audience is here.
It's definitely interesting. Let's call it intentional.
Yes, good, good. I like to be with the audience.
Of course,
See the
point
film.
of-
And
that's the point of making films. See
absolutely.
the reaction of the audience, no?
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah.
Nice, cool. What would you like to call your episode?
To call this episode?
Yeah.
Well, I was part of the feature film jury. So maybe something about judging art.
Judging art.
It's I'm usually judged because as a film producer, you know, you're always submitting projects and submitting films. But this time I'm judging, and I enjoyed watching the films, but I'm having a hard time evaluating films. I don't really like to benchmark art forms with each other. So I think judging art, I'm trying to come to peace with the concept.
It's difficult, yeah.
Yeah, because every piece of art is, you have to take it on its own or within the filmography of the artist. You know what they have done before or after, but I don't like comparing different pieces of art together.
So you mentioned you're on the feature film jury of Lebanon Cinema Days
Correct.
in Canada. We
Yeah.
are in Montreal,
In Montreal,
in
yeah.
Quebec. How was that process like? Like how did you go from producer to jury? It's like in the boring details.
Right. Well, I just love cinema. I love film, and I love it so much that I wanted to make it, and I've made a career out of it, and it's a real privilege to be able to make movies. And when I was asked to be part of the feature film jury, I said yes right away because I love watching Lebanese films, and um, it was really a great opportunity to be able to watch everything, you know? So
How many films did you watch?
we had six. Yeah, six feature films, two of which were comprised of shorter films within them, which is a really interesting way of also putting short films together in a narrative where you tell a story, but with different perspectives and different directors with different aesthetics. So that was super interesting also.
Do you feel that that's fair? Like to have a collection of short films like judged uh, as a feature film? Like okay, maybe the question is not do you think that's fair? How does that work?
Well, we tried not judging them as short films because there is a short film category and a short film jury. So we really tried watching and judging as an ensemble. So you have to watch the whole feature film and judge it for itself and its qualities. But what's really interesting is that feature films that are comprised of different short films are able to put different voices together and have an accelerated opportunity for emerging filmmakers or even established filmmakers to make a story quickly or quicker than a feature film, which is really a longer process probably. But what was interesting in these two, and there was a feature film and a documentary feature as well, one fiction, one doc, comprised of those shorts. What was interesting is that they were all tied thematically through a concept. So there was still a narrative story going through it, but you can really see the the opportunity that filmmakers need to come together and express something as a collective. And that's really interesting because it's such a solo experience as a filmmaker, like just having this vision of writing often and directing, but now you have to collaborate and make a story hold on its own. And these films were very interesting.
It feels more challenging than just making one story into a feature film.
They're all one stories, but those stories fit together, you know, and
Interesting.
yeah.
You talked a bit earlier about submitting to lots of different places. How do you? I, I'm sure, I myself submit to a lot of places, and rejection is always like almost guaranteed most of the time. How do you deal with rejection, and do you become immune to it at a certain point?
It's really hard. It's really hard because every project that you have, once you submit it, it's because you think it's amazing and it is worth being funded and being seen and being created. So there's a lot of work that goes into every submission, but there are more films developed than films produced. So it's part of the process. And I always think, even of actors, you know, how many auditions they need to go through that we also, as filmmakers, put them through to land one role. And the whole system is pitching, you know. The writers pitch directors, the directors pitch producers, producers pitch film distributors film pitch movie uh,
Platforms
theaters
or
and platforms, exactly, broadcasters. And the broadcasters and the theaters, they pitch the audience. So everybody's always trying to convince another party to um, see a certain piece of content, but we try to make it the most direct link between the vision of the filmmaker to the heart of the audience. But there are many people involved, and at every step, you can get a rejection.
Mm. The way you describe it now, it feels like can uh, like an excessively bloated process. Do you feel it like it's like it is bloated, or do you think that this kind of system came into existence because this is what's required more or less for this chain to work?
Well, it's a good question because film is um, exceptionally a collective art form, you know, as opposed to photography, let's say, or painting or sculpture or even podcasting, maybe, where, you know, it's a more intimate setting. In film, you need so many people, and that makes it so much more expensive and elaborate to put together. So each idea really has to be as flourished and as perfected as possible to be able to get the funding necessary to make this piece of work. And often, what's challenging in this process is that you don't have an immediate
Feedback.
not just the feedback, mais le geste, like an immediate creation. You know, you can't just be like, oh, I think this subject is really necessary to be spoken about right now. Let's take a mic and just sit together tonight, or this building is so beautiful in front of me that I want to take an instant photo of it. But from the time that you feel a need to express something, whether it's from a social context or a personal journey that you want to communicate, to the time that it gets created and funded, is really sometimes disconnected. And by the time that it gets to the audience, the context has changed so much, whether it's socially, politically, even yourself. You may have evolved artistically, personally. Um, so it's a really long term process that's really beautiful. And it's a privilege doing it because many people want to do it and just a few are chosen.
You're a director and a producer.
Yep.
Um, how do you, as a director, and then the follow-up question is as a producer.
Yep.
So you had the spark.
Yeah.
Okay, you had this vision, you had this moment, the aha, whatever you want to call it, the moment of creation, the moment of initial creation. You had this moment. How do you sustain it? How do you keep it going with you until like your job is done as a director and then as a producer?
The thing is, you name it as labels almost and as professions, like directing or producing. But for me, it's not a job almost. It's a lifestyle, and a flash, I have a flash multiple times a day, We're always on. Like we don't work from 9 to 5. I watch the news, I'm on. I read a book, I'm on holidays, I'm on. And when I say I'm on, is I'm
Things are
thinking.
connecting, things
Correct.
are popping up.
Yes, thinking of ideas, putting ideas together, imagining this person or this story in a film. So we're always like working, but it's a lifestyle. I don't call it a job. So for me, I like the term storytelling or filmmaking because it encompasses writing, directing, producing. And these tasks are often on, but when an idea sits back and you think of it again the next day and it comes back the week after, it calls you, like there's something that you're like, oh no, this is more important than the other ideas I have during that whole day or that whole week or that whole month or that whole year. And then it sticks and you're like, oh, maybe I should try to develop it a bit. And you give it a chance and you develop it. Today I was with a writer and she said, I put fishing lines and I see what bites, and she's working on multiple projects. And she said, "Oh, I got a bite today," and I was like, "Okay,
Beautiful
congratulations,
analogy.
congrats to you." And I think it's in sustaining, and you know that it's going to be for like 3 to 6 years. The last film I put out in 2004, I started it in 2011. It was a 13-year process.
Right.
Writing, submitting, funding, 13 years in the making, like it changed so much. We changed the whole cast twice because the actors aged.
Wow. Like, okay, so what you're saying is kind of uh, like throwing me off. You say that you're on all the time.
Mm.
Things are happening, things are biting
Hmm.
all the time. And then there's one of those bites that makes it into a film or a project or just a product, if you want to call it, something
Hmm.
to be delivered. Uh, like, so does that imply that during the process of flourishing of this idea, other ideas died or were left behind?
I never kill ideas. Some people use like the shoebox example, like some people have a little carnet, they like just a thing that you can put in your back pocket and you're always like taking notes. Some people put it in their notes on their phone. And some people, they say they like just write on a piece of napkin and put it in a shoebox. But for me, an idea never dies, it's like part of something that you created at some moment in time. And someone says something like 7 years later or 20 years later, and you're like, I've thought of this before, or I've seen this before, or you'd be great in something I heard before, and like you're always kind of connecting pieces. So for me, I like the drawers rather than the shoebox because the drawers I can, open them, put other ideas in them, close them, but I know like where it's stacked in my head or in my heart, and all the projects, whether they were funded or not, like have a deep place in my heart because I've worked on some a little, but on some a lot, and we're talking months and years of work.
Would you choose one aspect of your, I'm gonna call it a job again, or one aspect of your storyteller? Would you choose one aspect over the other, like the director over the producer, or do they have to coexist?
Mm, I I'm a generalist. You know, some people like to call themselves a specialist because all they do is
Direct.
documentary films, direct
Mm.
documentary films, or produce animation films. I like to have a general practice. I studied in communication also. So I have like photography, sound, music, dance, theater, literature, all nourish my practice. And I stay, or I try to stay at least, honest to the story and what the story calls. So I don't say I want to direct a feature film or I want to produce a TV series. I go from a story or a character and I say, oh, this character has this type of story and should live in a short film or be in an interactive work or be a web series. Or do you want to treat the subject as a documentary with the real people speaking about it? Or do you want to make it a fiction about these same people? And these are questions that are always coming up when we come up with ideas. And you think of the audience also. Do they want to see the real person speak about what they're thinking, or do they want to see an actor interpret this? I think in TV series, it's mostly characters and an environment. You're like, oh, these people together in this type of family or work environment are really interesting, and I want to see them and hear them for a long time. In film, it's more event based. It's like, it's 90 minutes, at least in feature film. And it's a story, it's more like story based, even though characters are really strong, but they need to have an ending.
So this kind of generalist that you named, like I consider myself a generalist as well. Um, but do you feel like it's kind of like a confusion to everyone else around you? Like, what are you? Like, what kind of work do you do? Like, I mean, to kind of say what I'm trying to say in a different way. Our modern society is designed around specialists.
Correct.
You
It's true.
either are a specialist and you succeed in whatever you do specifically, or is there an or actually? I don't know. Like, this kind of questioning triggers me. Like,
I relate to that. I understand. And you're right to question that. And I'm still questioning it. But for each person is really different, you know? Like I've worked with filmmakers who have said, all I want to do is write. I don't want to direct. I don't want to produce. I want to write and I want to write fiction. That's it. And that's honorable, you know. Some people are documentary filmmakers and that's their title. And that's, I think, easier also for people to understand what you do, you know, because you have like an expertise. And the advantage of that is that you can become really good at it and you can be the best at it and try to be the best at it because that's the single sport you're practicing, you know, that's like the discipline that you are always rehearsing and perfecting your craft. Whereas generalists are more like, I kind of like to go into, let's say, a
I want to do
festival.
everything.
Yeah, you know, like you go to a festival like South by Southwest, and it's like technology people, and they're talking about like avant-garde interactive media, and I love that, and I want to know the people there. And then I want to go to like Berlin Film Festival, where it's like more artists who work in like more auteur films, and that's a totally different crowd. Actually, what's really interesting at South by Southwest is that they have a music, film, and comedy festival. And you could see the crowd shift throughout like a 10-day journey if you stay
Ah,
through. And the people really change in the streets and the conversations are super different. They have a technology also like the new media, which I also, you know, I produce and direct VR works. In virtual reality, interactive, where you can like interact with objects and characters and change the story. I really like this dynamic. But to get back to the generalist, is that you can feel at ease in different spaces instead of be like super known when you enter one space.
Mm.
I would kind of say it in that image. And some people really love being known in one space and they don't care about the others. And other people just like discovering. I think it's about that. It's about like curiosity and discovery because when I feel that I know something, how to do it well, I kind of get bored and I don't want to repeat that same experience. But it's only when you repeat that experience that you kind of try to become successful and make it better than the last time. But the fact that I'm more like on a curiosity and discovery journey, I'm always learning and I love learning, and um, I think that really motivates my practice.
I want to go back to your work. You said you work with VR and XR and like different forms of communication, I guess you can call
And
them,
storytelling,
and
yeah, sure.
storytelling. Uh, like, uh, uh, what's the relationship between that and cinema? Is there a difference between that and cinema? Do you see like a certain progression into the future would take this VR or XR technology to a fame level which is comparable to cinema?
It's interesting the way you frame it. And I think I would say that I see it in two folds. One is about innovation. I don't want to, I've seen a lot of films and interactive works and
Sorry, can you come closer to the mic?
sure.
Because the speaker in the phone behind you has a similar frequency to your voice. So
Absolutely. Okay.
kind of
I could change the frequency of my voice too. If that
you're a
helps.
voice actor as well.
No. Um, uh, so first, it's about storytelling and choosing the right framework for each story, right? So if you say, I need to have the audience interact with this character or this location or this emotion and show it and give them tools to be able to manipulate the story and not just be absorbing it as a passive audience, then you go into interactive tools. And this is like the whole XR medium that we call. But for me, it's more about innovation. I want to see new stories. I want to see new ways of telling stories. I want to see new characters. I want to see different ways of being um, uh,
Captivated.
yeah, interpellé was in French, like
Like
called.
gravitate
Yeah,
towards.
exactly. I want to like, so in terms of the innovation is if you can't innovate in a certain story or character or location, then maybe you can innovate with the way it's told, with the technology, with the way you're reaching the audience, and you can have them like play with the material, and that's also a sort of innovation to be explored. So I don't see it as past, present, future, even though my work in digital media has followed technology. We started with interactive web, then it was mobility, like stories on mobile, then now it's more virtual reality, AR, which is augmented reality. So how can you make stories exist on different canvases, basically?
I'm interested in how you might see gaming in this kind of space that you're talking about. Does gaming fit somewhere?
um I I haven't had a experience in actual gaming, but I see a lot of the work as gamification, even in life almost, like how you gain points to get into certain places, how you achieve certain levels to get to a different level. So there's a form of gamifying now, like our lives and existences, to also maybe try to deal with like everything that's happening to us in some ways. It's maybe a coping mechanism. Some call it resilience.
Resilience. You took me right where I want to
Right?
go right now. Like,
Go. Others take it to play with it, you know, and sometimes you think it's a game and it's not. Sometimes you think it's a joke and it becomes real, which we have been seeing a lot of recently.
yeah. You were born in Lebanon.
مظبوط.
من أي ضيعة. ابن مين؟
I was born in Beirut.
And did you move to Canada as a child or later on? Like,
Yes, I was 10 years old. If I tell you the year, you'll know my age, but
you don't have to.
I could tell you.
I wanted to ask about the war.
Yeah,
If that has affected you or your work or any kind of aspect. I mean, of course, it has affected a certain kind of aspect. You're Lebanese, even if you haven't lived it, you've heard it
I've
probably a
lived it.
million times.
I've lived it.
So
84. So it's the war influences everything. Everything.
yeah.
And people don't admit it, but it does. I'm still struggling with it like decades later. And when I see it happening again, it's extremely, extremely difficult. But it's interesting because I have friends, and now we have to define like immigrant friends, even from Lebanon or other Arab countries. And now we have to define each other by what war generation we came to Canada, which is so absurd. But it's the reality, you know? And people say, like, this is my war, this is what I'm carrying. And you can relate. You're like, okay, you lived it 30 years later, maybe, but we have the same shreds inside, like impact, you know? And of course, whether it's consciously or unconsciously, it's impacted life, family, friendships, school, work.
To lighten the mood a bit, I will tell you
أكيد يلا.
in a slightly dark way. I will tell you the first war I remember, and you will guess my age. 2006.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, I'm waiting for you to guess my
No,
age.
I'm not. Because I don't want you to guess mine. So we're not going to play that one.
Okay.
But yeah.
Do you think filmmakers, whether fiction or documentary or other forms, do we really have an impact on war or how the world might perceive war or not? I mean, it's kind of like poetically thought of course, resilience through cinema or resistance through cinema or art in general. But is this real? Like, is this something that actually works?
I don't know what works anymore. And it's certainly not cinema. But I think what works is the belief that it's possible to touch someone, you know? And I think that's why we keep doing it in that art form. It's because you think that you can have the privilege of having a microphone and touching someone with an emotion that might be shared, that you can express to them and that they can feel, and maybe change their mind on a subject, or maybe open up a subject with someone else, or maybe reconsider their position. Of course, it's utopian thinking, but you still have to think it to to be able to create, that you will maybe touch one person out of millions of people maybe on TV that have seen the way that you wrote a scene or that you filmed a scene or that you acted a scene, the way that you interacted with other characters or that you thought about a certain subject or bounced back from a certain challenge. Artists in general think that they are able to touch someone. It's the same thing as when we go in the streets and demonstrate. It's because you think like, oh, I might be able to change something. Or when you vote, you're like alone voting. You don't think you can change the system, but there's this slight chance that your vote counts to someone and makes a difference. So it's kind of that suspension of disbelief almost that we never take for granted.
It's funny you say this phrase because that's literally I I, I think that's the main pillar of cinema. Like the audience has to suspend their disbelief. You have to believe that this thing is real.
Yeah, and that's the hardest thing to do, to make you believe that these people or characters are real and that you can project your own emotions on them and be able to feel the impact um, or feels an emotion that you're still going through and that you can go through with them, whether it's comedy, through laughter, or um, darker issues through drama or horror. Um, there are different genres that trigger different emotions that are still important to the way we behave in society. And if you believe that uh, you have an impact somewhere, then it's a really precious position to have in society. Some people they go into politics to change the world, right? And some people they go into law or and film, and this creative space is a bit hopes anyways to have a small impact, even though we
Uh,
think we think
yeah,
more than it does.
uh, we have to wrap things up within like 5 minutes.
Sure.
So I want to take these 5 minutes to talk about representation.
Mm.
Uh, like what you were describing, this kind of connection, if you want to call it, between a story and an audience. Um, how much does a different culture um, like minimize this kind of connection? Like, how much harder is it to make this connection across cultures, like from Lebanese to Canadian, per se?
Mhm. Well, if we go back to storytelling, each community and each ethnicity or each culture has a way of communicating. We have different codes, whether it's through language, the use of language, or other use of humor, of drama, of silence, even. We have a way of expressing ourselves. And in terms of representation, it's trying to see the language of film or audiovisual works and how they can represent your culture. So it's not just being able to say, I'm Lebanese Canadian and this is my perspective, but it's also how do Lebanese people tell stories? What do they laugh about? What touches them? What triggers them really? And this really comes to an authentic point of view where you can tell a story differently from a very specific point of view that you were educated through, or that you know this is the way that you construct a story. And I think it's represented in film, and we try to achieve that anyways, to try to respect each culture's way of taking a photo and or or putting a scene together or seeing it in that sense. So it's a fascinating subject, and we're trying to make more place for more people to be able to take the mic or the camera to express their stories from that authentic place of representation.
I'm interested to know more about media.
Media.
EDIA.
Yes, Coalition Media.
Coalition Media.
Yeah. So Coalition Media, and Media is the acronym for Media for Equity, Diversity, Inclusion, and Accessibility. It's a nonprofit organization that I co-founded in 2020 to try to make space in our Canadian audiovisual industry for storytellers who are Indigenous, Black, and racialized, to be able to see and hear voices from the diaspora of different countries and people who haven't had necessarily the chance or opportunity to be heard and to tell their stories and with their characters, their families, their neighborhoods, their cultures, and their, as you said, their way of telling the story in an authentic way.
So, would you like to change the title of your episode? What was it? Judging art?
It still works.
Okay. Well, Ziad Touma, thank you very much. This
Thank you.
was a beautiful conversation.
Thank you. With pleasure.
Thank you.